Hey guys, Ryan here. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about something a little controversial in I think a lot of people's eyes. And that's I think your sensitivity might be too low. Now, I have to put some context to this. I currently play on 1414 sensitivity on Warzone, and that's way too fast. Do not even really think about playing on a sensitivity that high unless you feel like you're a very skilled player in general. But I tried playing Warzone on my friend's PS5 on his account to test what skill-based matchmaking was like, but also just to test his settings. And one thing I found is that I legitimately believe most people's settings are way too low. I think if your sensitivity is around 5.5, 4.4, you might just need to bump it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be an insane amount, but when I tried playing on that sensitivity, there were literal times where if someone jumped at all to the left of me, to the right of me, if they jumped whatever, if they did a drop shot, I did not have the sensitivity that was quick enough to be able to actually track my target. And with how fast you die in this game, those milliseconds will add up. In my opinion, it is a very good thing to have a somewhat fast sensitivity. I'm not talking probably about anything higher than 1010. Now, if you feel like you can control something faster than 1010 sensitivity, well then go for it. But if you are someone who feels like you lose to anyone who hits you with a jump shot or a drop shot, the real reason why is because your sensitivity is probably too slow to actually track your opponent. And I genuinely believe that there's a certain percentage of the population that's just using a sensitivity that's way too low to actually be a good Warzone player. Now, I think a lot of the confusion around sensitivity stems from the difference between your sensitivity in Warzone and Battle Royales versus your sensitivity in multiplayer. So I played competitive COD for years. I played against a ton of your favorite pros if you watch Pro Call of Duty in tournaments for money. And I used a way lower sensitivity then. And when you think about the maps and how many people are actually on these maps, because competitive Call of Duty is designed for 4v4 or 5v5 back in the day on some of the games I played, and these maps were smaller. There were less angles people could be. You had to just aim less places overall. You had to pre-aim a smaller amount of places. It was a lot easier to predict where people were going to be. You didn't have to react as much. And so what this means is for Warzone, it's not the same thing. The map is way bigger. There's far more places people could be. The time to kill is a lot longer. You don't kill people in 2-3 bullets. You don't insta kill them. Well, I mean, you almost do. But it takes a lot longer to kill people in this. And because of that, you need a higher sensitivity to actually track people. When you're playing multiplayer and you see all of these pros, a lot of that is just centering. What they do is they center onto an area, that person walks into it, and then they just shoot. It does take a little bit of tracking. The centering is a huge skill. Everything, it's all very, very skilled. Don't get me wrong. And there's people like Shotzi who have an insane aim regardless. But the point I'm trying to get across is that is way different than Warzone. You cannot be pre-aiming on all of your enemies. When you have people flying in from the sky above you, you have a person on a skyscraper way behind you, you have someone drop shotting right in front of you. How are you going to be able to aim with all of these things going on if your sensitivity is too low? And that's where I think a big reason why a lot of people use sensitivities too low for them. They see these pros use these low sensitivities and they think to themselves, oh, well, I should use something like that. Well, are you playing 4v4 Call of Duty? Or are you playing on a map that has 50 people? Or are you playing on a map that has 150 people? You need to think about these differences because I promise these things will add up. And I once again need to advise, it's not about using the highest sensitivity or using a sensitivity that's that fast. I'm not saying you have to use a fast sensitivity, but you have to be aware that there is such a thing as having a sensitivity that is too low. The flip side of it, guys, and this is probably the last major point I'll touch on, but when you really get to wanting to be a good player, and I'm saying not just being an above average player, but being a top 1% player. If you look at the leaderboards, if you looked at Warzone 1, whatever, I am in the top 0.1% of the entire player base. In some game modes, in some things, I'm in the top 0.01%. And if you want to get to that level, and that's a level very few people will achieve, but if you want to be in the top 1%, maybe even the top 5%, you need to start thinking about being a very highly skilled player. And one of the best ways to do that is by actually having pretty cracked aim. On controller, aim assist, even if you're the best of the best, is going to do a lot of the work for you, and that's something I really don't like. But still, even with aim assist, you still have to do a ton of aiming, and there's a ton of skill involved. And people who can play on a higher sensitivity are people who have the skill to control higher sensitivities. And I'm not saying that this is like, oh, that means you're just better if you use a higher sensitivity. No, that's not what I'm trying to get across. What I more mean is it will help you become a better player, get better aim, become more controlled with your aim. And what you're going to realize is this is going to make you a more cracked player. Now, I hate using that term because a lot of people may not understand what I mean by cracked, but cracked is just a term for someone who's very skilled, very energetic, and just overall a very talented aimer. And that's the whole difference between someone who's just good at aiming and someone who's cracked at aiming. Someone who's cracked at aiming is very talented, and every single cracked aimer on this planet is someone who's good at using high sensitivities. That doesn't mean they always use high sensitivities or they're forced to use high sensitivities, but it means they're good at using high sensitivities. They have the skill and the ability to control their aim even when on a high sensitivity, and this is what I mean by having cracked aim. Anyways, guys, I want to apologize for the lack of frequency in videos, especially the last week. I had a little medical emergency with my dog. Luckily, she's okay. Thank goodness she's okay. But you know, that it was very stressful. I was just very stressed. Wasn't focused on Call of Duty at all. But that's gone. Season 3's coming up this week. I hear there's a ton of crazy things happening for Warzone, and I'm super excited for the future of this game. I really want to get back into content. I owe a massive apology to a viewer, Chris. I'm sorry about that. I'll get to your email. I'm so sorry about that. Anyways, it's been Ryan. I hope you have a good day. Peace.